Hey, and welcome back to another episode of Learning 2D Java Game Programming. In today's video, we are going to introduce something called a state for our game, which is basically some of the logic that I have inside of the game right now with the game objects and also the sprite library and things like that. I want to put them inside something called a state. So that way we can have like a game state, I guess, or a play state maybe, and also a menu state and whatever other states that we want. So it's an abstraction that I'd like to make so that this game class doesn't get too big. And after we do that, we are going to implement a very basic map, a grid system, and our tile class. But we don't have any graphics for the tiles yet, so for today we're just gonna draw a rectangle. But we'll see when we get there. So let's get to it. So the first thing I want to do, of course, is to actually introduce our new state class. Let's just put it inside a state package and make a state base class, which I want to be abstract. So now let's move some things into this state. So it's gonna keep the game objects instead of our game. I think that it will also have the sprite library now. And let's see. So we're gonna move this, of course. All right, let's just move that for now, all of this. Move it down into our state. So Alt insert, make a constructor. And okay, so we copied this, so select none. And just paste what we had. So now this wants an input, and I feel like that's fine. This input I actually do want to store as well inside of here, since we might want to put this input, we might want to give it to any entity that we instantiate or something like that. And we also want this input to come from our game, because we want to use the same input that is attached to our window or our display class in any state. So if we're in a menu, we want it to be this input that makes us click the buttons, as well as if we're in the game, it will be the same input that listens to our key. You know. All right, so let's keep it in both places. So this update has to be moved. So grab all of that, put it inside the state, which now needs an update function. Update. Stupid fingers. Okay, and paste that in. And so this will still render, but it will pass in a state. Sorry, and we need to keep it as well, of course. So state. Import that, and we can't instantiate it yet. But this will be in here. This one we will move into our state. And inside of our update method, let's say state.update. Okay. So let's just fix this display for now. This wants a game, but now it gets a state. And the renderer also wants, sorry, we need to import this. And the renderer also wants a game, but now we pass in a state. So control clicking will take you there. So let's say a state. Let's import this state from our game state and say state.get game objects, and that way we are good to go. So our display and our renderer are both fixed, and now we need to make a state that implements state. All right, let's just call it, I'm not sure, let's call it game state or play state. Let's call it game state for now. Okay, so game state extends state. And let's see what it wants. It wants a constructor matching super, and I mean, that's fine. So our game now says that state is equal to a new game state, and pass in the input. Okay, let's see what's in our state. We probably want to move this game objects, or adding of our player. So the player is definitely part of the game state. It won't be in the menu state or anything else, so it shouldn't be in this base state class. But now we can't reach our game objects, and we can't reach our sprite library, and that's because these are private. So these all need to be protected. So let's just make them protected, which of course means that any class deriving from this class can access these. Also, I see that we never said this input is equal to input, so we store the input that we actually get. All right, back to the game state. So now we added our player controller. So hopefully if we play now, let's see if I missed something, everything should be like before. And it is. Also, I can see that we're still doing the printing over here. So let's actually fix that, and it's inside the motion class down here when we were debugging the vector. All right, so away with ya. All right, so now that we have this finished, we can get to implementing a simple game map. So in our source folder, let's create a package called map. Okay, and let's create a class. And at first I thought I'd just call it a map, but I don't like that there's already a data type called map, one which I really like, as you probably can tell by now. And I don't want the names to collide. So let's just call this a game map so we know what we're talking about. So our game map is going to, for now, only consist of a 2D array of tiles. So we're going to create the tile class. Okay, and so this, create that class and put it in the same package. So this class for now is only going to store, private image sprite. It's only going to store its own sprite. So let's make a public tile sprite library so that we can decide which tile we want. And for now, there are no tiles inside of the sprite library. So let's fix that later. Let's just say public image get sprite, and for now we don't have a sprite. Actually, should we fix it? Should we not fix it now? Let's fix it now. Let's do something quick. So first of all, let's make a new map. As I said, I like them, but this only needs to have an image. Since these won't be animated, we don't need sprite sets, so just an image. So that these are the tiles, and we say load sprites from disk, and right now all of this actually belongs, so cut that out and say private void load units, because that's really what that code did. It just loaded the units. So in the same way, let's just call it, we can also say load tiles. So let's create a method called load tiles, and in here let's create just a square like we did before. Yeah, let's just do it. Let's just hack it out. Image, new buffered image, and the buffered image, alt enter to import. It wants a size, right? So give it game.sprite size. So first a width and then a height, and then, here it wants the type. So buffered image type RGB. That will be good enough for us. All right, and then say graphics 2D graphics. I don't want these there. Call it image create graphics. And like before, pick a color, set color. I'm gonna go with red this time. And then we're gonna say graphics draw image. And draw rectangle is, of course, draw rect is what we want. So start at 0, 0 with the game.sprite size width and game.sprite size height. Okay, and then do graphics dispose for the memory, and then let's add it to our tiles. Tiles.put, call it just default for now, and the image. Okay, and I just realized we also need to initialize the map. So new hash map. I hope this video doesn't run too long. Now we have our tiles. We just need a way to get the tiles. This is why I thought that maybe I wouldn't fix it now, but I did. So get tile and then string name. And then let's just return tiles get name. Okay, let's go back to the tile class. Now that we have it, let's just say that this sprite is equal to sprite library get tile and call default. Okay, so now we have that. Now we can return it. So return sprite. Awesome. Let's go back to the game map and alt insert to make a constructor. Okay, so tiles is equal to, sorry, we didn't actually want that right now. So we are probably going to take in a, let's do that. Let's take in a size, right? And normally my size is actually pixels. So I don't know if this will be confusing because now I want them to be just grid sizes, basically. So if one tile, like every tile will of course be sprite size. So say I get 10 width and 10 height, I'll have 10 times sprite size width for pixels and, you know, for height as well. We'll see. Let's start by doing this, and if it's a problem, we can fix it later. Don't fix it until it's a problem. All right, so size is equal to new tile array. So let's say size get width and size get height. Okay, and now we also need to fill it, initialize every tile. So let's do initialize tiles. All right, and generate that method, and then say for each array in one of the arrays, let's call it a row. I'm not sure if it's a row or a column. Let's call it a row for now. So for each tile array row inside of our tiles, there's this nifty little arrays.fill. So fill the row with new tile. And it of course now wants the sprite library. So let's get the sprite library with us. Let's take it in here. Sprite library, and give this the sprite library. So this way, if we create a new tile, if we decide that this will be a base class and we create other tiles that derive from this class, those tiles can decide inside what sprite they want to use. So we never do that from the outside. That's why it's easier to actually pass this around, even though it gets a little messy here, but it's easier in the long run. So we have initialized them. Now we need to also return, we need a getter. So alt insert, let's make that getter. We've returned the tiles. So the game map will actually go inside of the base state. I'm thinking if you have a menu, you could decide to, in the background, actually keep a game map and render that and maybe have a panning camera, and or if you want, or you can just not use it. It will be up to you. But since it's inside of the base state class, you have that option. So I'm gonna do it like that. So then let's just say that game map is equal to new game map, and it's gonna want the sprite library. I thought always wants a size as well. So new size, and now we have to decide. Let's just go by 10 by 10 for now. And let's import size. All right. So all of that's good, but we still need to render it. So let's go to our renderer, which takes in a state, which is good for us. So let's make a method called renderMap, and it will use the state and the graphics. So let's create that method, renderMap. All right, so what we want to do now is for int x is equal to 0, And while x is less than, and I just realized we need to get the tiles. So tiles is equal to state get, and we need a getter for our game map as well. So go in here and make that getter, and then go back. So get game map dot get tiles. Now we have them. So while it's smaller than tiles dot length, then keep going. And then also for the y-axis, it starts at 0, and while y is less than tiles, and then just get one of them. They're all the equal length. So y plus plus, sorry, there we go. All right, so now that we're inside here, we can do graphics, draw image, because we now have it. So the image is, of course, the tiles at position X and position Y, get sprite. And then it wants a position, so that would be X times game.spritesize and y.game.spritesize. And then the mysterious image observer, which we'll just pass in null. All right, actually, yeah, maybe do that. So this should be hopefully it. Let's try it. Let's see if I missed something. All right, maybe 10 was a little too little, but it is working. Let's just try with something larger. So where did we initialize that? I am already, I have too much open. Right, so we did it inside of here for now. We might not want to initialize it inside of the state. We probably want to initialize it somewhere else. So let's initialize it inside of our game state. That makes more sense. All right, let's try again. And I increased it to 20 and 20. And as you can see, we have a little grid system. So eventually we are going to fill these squares with actual images. But I think for the next video, we are going to implement a camera so that you can pan around your level and follow your player. But this will be all for today. So thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Hej då!